have they been invited?
Let's talk about the blocking of the nominations. I mean, this guy Chuck Hagel, if you're not again a political junkie, he was a Republican senator for about 12 years in the 90s and the early part of the last decade. A Republican. Let me emphasize that, a Republican right-wing senator. He's Obama's choice for Secretary of Defense. They're filibustering it. This has never happened before. 58 senators voted for Hagel. One senator, Lindsey Graham, says he wants answers about Benghazi, which has nothing to do with Chuck Hagel. And so he submits a bunch of questions, which have already been answered.
That's not fair. I mean, there's a lot of speeches that people are still trying to vet Chuck Hagel on. He's only got through the committee, the Armed Service Committee, on Tuesday. Now they wanted to vote up and down on Thursday. Senators still want to look through this. Just yesterday, there was a new...
What is it about him that's suspicious?
Well, first of all...
he voted for the Iraq War. He voted for the Afghanistan War. He voted for the Patriot Act, Homeland Security, Star Wars.
There you go.
He's a right-wing Republican, and that's not good enough.
Just yesterday, there was a new speech that they believe in which, during the question and answer at Rutgers University, he claimed that the State Department was controlled by the Israeli government. It was Israeli Foreign Ministry controls the State
What they're doing is they're going after every...
The state is... well, there's two things wrong with that. One is that it's kind of suggesting Israeli power is controlling things. Number two is that of all the branches of the government, the State Department being the most pro-Israel branch is
based on every statement I've heard out of any Republican in the last 2 years. The Israelis are controlling our government.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Monday, February 18th, 2013, and I'm Darko. Alright, this first article I have for you is 2 American Jewish organizations call for further review of Hagel's statements. The Anti-Defamation League and the American Jewish Committee request explanation from Obama's defense secretary nominee on a 2007 speech in which he allegedly said the State Department acted as an adjunct of Israel's foreign ministry. Then, of course, you have 2 Senate opponents vow to end the bid to block Hagel, so the Zionists known as Lindsey Graham and John McCain. And, right-wing Republican, or I don't even like right-wing or conservative attached to neocons, because they're Zionists, is what they are. Israeli banks said to be implicated in U.S. tax evasion. So, California man born in Israel agreed to plead guilty to conspiring with people at these 2 banks to hide offshore accounts and income from the U.S., basically IRS. Next up, we have sniper post picture of child in crosshairs. A photo posted online by an Israeli soldier showing a child in the crosshairs of a rifle scope has created a firestorm on the internet, drawing criticism. So the photo is posted by this Mor Ostrovsky, 20 member of the IDF Israeli sniper unit. So it is zeroed in on the back of what appears to be a Palestinian boy's head in the village. But it goes on here and it says that nothing happened, no disciplinary action will be taken, and their official reply, the IDF that is, was the picture in question does not coincide with IDF's values or code of ethics. So, Saudi Wahhabi monarchy preaches against terrorism, says it's impossible to make this up. Maybe George Orwell could, but ordinary humans could not. Saudi Arabia, a financier of terrorists, an armor of terrorists, and a promoter of vicious Wahhabism upon which terrorists thrive, is hosting an international conference on how to counter terrorism. So it says here that the raw truth is that the Saudis are preaching peace while at the same time they are causing destruction, such as in Pakistan. Just today, Saudi money, arms, and philosophy have just resulted in about 90 Shia deaths being blasted apart. And of course, Bahrain, there's a Saudi suppression of democracy in which hundreds have been imprisoned, tortured, and killed. That's in Bahrain. And in Syria, of course, there's Saudi support for the throat slitters and death squads roaming the land. The Assad government has a democratic mandate and retains popular support, yet foreign powers, Saudi Arabia in particular, are fomenting large-scale criminal violence. Then Iran's foreign minister warns of plots to sow discord among Muslims, saying that he's called on Muslims to watch out for never-ending plots by enemies of the Muslim world to sow discord among them. I've covered this many times about pinning them together, creating sectarian war like in Syria. In Syria's Assad said he's confident in winning the Syrian conflict. He says he is confident that the country's army will win the conflict against the foreign-backed militants who are fighting the government. So it goes on here, says, "We are sure we will win. We are reassured by the political and military developments. We are convinced that the future is ours and that Syria has the willpower to defeat the conspiracy, which is backed by Western and regional powers," Assad said. He also said that does not mean that everything is settled. We still have a lot to do politically and in the battle against extremist terrorist groups. U.S. Saudi-funded terrorists sowing chaos in Pakistan. Says Baluchistan, Pakistan, long target of Western geopolitical interests. Terror wave coincides with Gwadar port handover to China. So Quetta, it says here, the capital of Pakistan's southwest Baluchistan province, bordering both U.S.-occupied Afghanistan as well as Iran, was the site of a grisly market bombing that has killed over 80 people. According to reports, the terrorist group has claimed responsibility for the attack. That's Lashkar, billed as a Sunni extremist group. It instead fits the pattern of global terrorism sponsored by U.S., Israel, and their Arab partners, including Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The terrorist group, this Lashkar, was in fact created, according to the BBC, to counter Iran's Islamic Revolution in the 1980s and is still active today. Considering the openly admitted U.S., Israeli, Saudi plot to use al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups across the Middle East, now Africa, to counter Iran's influence, it begs the question whether these same interests are funding terrorism in Pakistan to not only counter Iranian sympathetic Pakistani communities, but to undermine and destabilize Pakistan itself. Then you have Shias refuse to bury the dead. They demand a military takeover. Protests in Pakistan have erupted over this bombing attack. It says they threaten a march on Islamabad if demands are not met. So they call on the military on Sunday to take control of the city or province after a bombing by Sunni militants that killed 85 people. Next up, we have Pakistan tests second nuclear missile in just 4 days. Now, why is this not on the news everywhere like North Korea? So on Friday, they successfully tested the nuclear-capable HAF-2 ballistic missile, the range of 180 kilometers, marking the second test of a missile system in 4 days as part of measures to evaluate the capabilities of its forces. And we have Iran to build naval base near Pakistan. This is what we were talking about. Iran is to build a new naval base on its coast of the Gulf of Oman. Because the Navy has established a new naval base in the country's southeastern borders along the coast of Sea of Oman, a bid to strengthen its country's line of defense. And that's what we're talking about, the Gwadar Gulf. Then next up, we have Ukraine to deliver 110 battle tank engines to Pakistan. They're going to deliver 110 tank engines and related parts to Pakistan for installation on the South Asian country's domestically developed battle tank. We have Iran scolds world powers over gold sanctions offer. They criticized on Monday a reported plan by major powers to demand the closure of uranium enrichment plant in return for an easing of sanctions on Tehran's trade in gold and other precious metals, which they're doing to circumvent the sanctions that are being applied to them because they're supposedly enriching this uranium. So, it says lately they have said, shut down Fordo, stop uranium enrichment, we will allow gold transactions. They want to take away the rights of a nation in exchange for allowing trade in gold. You probably remember this article, September 28th, 2012. Get this out of the way. But it goes on here talking about the red line. 20% enriched uranium in Iran is enough for one bomb. Absent in all of this is that one cannot make a nuclear weapon out of 20% enriched uranium in the first place. They've been producing 20% enriched uranium for over a year now at this level of enrichment needed to fuel the U.S.-built Tehran research reactor, which produces medical isotopes for the country. To more double standards, we have Sandhurst to rename building after Bahraini despot. The UK's government decision to rename a hall at the Sandhurst Military Academy after the brutal king of Bahrain has sparked outrage among the British public. So it says here is commemorating troops killed in a World War I battle after King Hamad al-Khalifi of Bahrain following the cruel ruler's donation of £3 million, or £3 million, to refurbish the hall. Then we have Britain's arms deals with Sri Lanka is revealed. More than £2 million worth of sales made last year to a government which has been accused of extensive human rights violations. Well, based off the last article, I don't think they really care about that. Back in Benghazi, Ansar al-Sharia returns, establishes checkpoints. The militia accused of attacking U.S. consulate and killing the ambassador vows to provide security. So they were blamed for the 9/11 U.S. consulate attack that violently forced out the city by pro-government attackers. It says here that the same group is returned in force, setting up checkpoints and promising to provide security for local hospitals and neighborhoods. course, the alternative is that it was actually what the Libyan officials were speculating, that it was destroyed by actually pro-Gaddafi protesters. But it's interesting because this Muslim extremist group, can be considered terrorists, I guess, or Al-Qaeda linked, have been setting up these checkpoints, seizing contraband, including illegal medical supplies from the checkpoints, and turning it over to the regime. So, but the thing is that Libya is now officially, if it wasn't already, it's a Western smuggling port. I mean, they can't even get enough food in there. No one wants to do business in there because it's just so unstable. Royal Navy sends warship to Libya to showcase defense equipment. Undeclared arms race among European defense contractors to re-equip Libya's armed forces causes concern among the locals. They're going to boost defense equipment sales to Libya by sending a Royal Navy warship to Tripoli to act as a floating shop window for security firms. Then you have Tibetan set himself on fire at Kathmandu tourist site. The monk is the 101st person to self-immolate in protest against Chinese rule. The man has yet to be identified, but appeared to be about 21 years old. He collapsed in front of the stupa, one of the holiest Buddhist sites. Doused himself with gasoline, set himself ablaze, and chanted anti-Chinese slogans as he ran down the street in Nepal's capital this morning. And I guess there's a photo of him. Like I said before, they'll take his burning body or dead corpse and they'll throw it behind bars. Send a message to everybody else. And they actually send these guys through these re-education camps. I'm not crapping you. They actually use holy temples and convert them into brainwashing camps for these people. After Mali comes Niger. Says West Africa's problems migrate east. Oh, see how the problems in Al-Qaeda just spread where they want to go, where there's more resources. So they go down here and they kind of rewrite history a little bit, but they kind of leave stuff out too, which is, like I mentioned before, the Tuaregs want their own autonomy, and that's all they want, and they were willing to work with some of these groups to do that. But the thing was that all of these Al-Qaeda-linked groups now turned on these Tuaregs, and so now they're kind of wrapped up in it, and they kind of had to go and run off to the wood, basically to regroup. That's what they go down there to say. They said here that they've fled across the unguarded Nigerian border where they will try to regroup. So, this is good for the West. Not only do they keep these people from getting their autonomy, they just move the terrorists wherever they want to go, move those people out, and move to the country next that, like I said, they want to go and get whatever they want to get out of them, resources-wise. Saudis, Iraq cut oil exports as Venezuela shipments surge. So Venezuela just devalued their currency big time, and then you have currency issues where they're actually initiating price controls in Argentina. And I may not get to the economy today, but that's what I'll be covering tomorrow or Wednesday about these currency wars or trade wars. Iraq and Saudi Arabia cut crude oil exports in December for a second month. It says here, while fellow OPEC member Venezuela boosted shipments to their highest in more than 4 years. Then we have Chavez returns to Venezuela after 2 months in Cuba. He returned to Caracas after more than 2 months of treatment in Cuba following cancer surgery. So Chavez, I guess he tweeted, "I'm clinging to Christ and trusting in my doctors and nurses. Onward towards victory always. We will live and we will triumph." We have Ecuador's Correa claims re-election victory. So this is, I would imagine it's good news for Ecuadorians. He was talking about a CIA coup, or basically trying to get him from not being elected. So he says here they got reelected on Sunday. That would allow him to strengthen state control over the OPEC nation's economy and give a timely boost to Latin America's alliance of socialist leaders, which kind of sounds scary to North Americans and Americans in general. But for them locally, it may not be a bad deal. Who knows? Spy suicide scandal focuses attention on Israel's foreign Jews. Says Australian immigrant may have betrayed Mossad's secrets. The dual identity missions seen risking allies and anti-Semitism. It says it's focused attention on the agency's recruitment of foreign-born Jews who could spy under cover of their native passports. So I mean by Israel first. Lonely terrorist behind 1993 World Trade Center bombing files lawsuit to get out of solitary confinement. He's probably a lone wolf patsy, right? Italy's ex-intelligence chief given 10-year sentence for role in CIA kidnapping, so they just pinned it on him. Not only did the CIA kidnap and torture him, but he was guilty of absolutely nothing. CIA agent sentenced to prison while the torturers he exposed walk free. This is GGN. Thank you.